Hello, welcome to another excellent episode of Wrestling Doesn't Make Sense, which is where me and my friend John talk about how little sense wrestling makes. But today we are blessed with the opportunity to be joined by an actual professional wrestler. So,
Did you hear that? Yes.
yes, it's true. You're an actual professional wrestler. This is. Do you want to? Would you like to introduce yourself to the people?
Oh, man, I was hoping you would introduce me and then hit my music, and then I could like come out and do a promo or something.
What
But I can.
what music do you use to come out to the ring with?
Indestructible by Disturbed. I've been using that for God knows how many years.
Oh,
Uh,
that's a fair. That's okay. Yeah.
yeah, it's all right. I just
You
can't find anything else. I'm not exactly a music buff.
you know
I
what I
probably
would
need to change.
use? This is what I would do. Maybe John thinks like this too. But sometimes you hear a song and you be like, "Oh, this would be perfect. If I was a wrestler, I would come out to this music." I
Mm.
thought, "Them Bones" by Alice in Chains would be like that's like kick-ass fucking entrance music. You know what I mean? Have you heard that
Yeah, yeah,
song? John's heard that song because it's like
of course.
it's like bam, immediate, and it would get the crowd going with a killer riff and stuff. So
hmm
that's what I would use if I was a wrestler. John, what entrance music would you use?
I always had the idea of using. I think it's either Zero or Bullet with Butterfly Wings by Smashing Pumpkins. Either one of them would be excellent theme music, I think.
Zero would
Okay.
work really well.
Mm.
Hi. I'm like I said, not a real music buff. Did you just say bullet butt chains or something like that?
Yeah, it's a hell of
But
a song.
that is the name of the song that you would come out to the ring to.
It's called "The Bullet with Butterfly Wings," which
Oh,
it's a
bullet,
song.
but
Bullet with butt cheeks. It's a song by Smashing Pumpkins, aka Billy Corgan, who now currently owns the NWA.
if I ever work for him, I'm gonna. I love the Smashing Pumpkins. I've actually never heard them, but I love those guys.
If you ever meet him, go up and say, "I love that song, Bullet Butt Cheeks." That's awesome.
Well, I sent in my information to the Circle Squared, their little show that there's whatever it is they're supposed to be doing. So if I meet him, I'll tell him.
Oh,
I'm a big,
the NWA like tryouts. Was that it?
yeah, that's the way they're talking about it, and you never can tell about the wrestling business, but they ask you for a YouTube video and of your matches, of course, and then a YouTube video of a promo and two-paragraph biography about yourself that makes you unique, which I'm sure that I'm not unique compared to everybody else, but I digress.
Yeah.
And then a promotional photo, and then if they invite you to their pay-per-view, on the 14th, 15th, 16th, 15th, 16th being the TV days, you get to cut a promo in front of the live crowd. I'm sure it's dark. Nobody sees it, but and then you have to get in the ring and actually wrestle a match in front of the people. So they just kind of throw you to the wolves. So I don't know if you consider that. I guess it would be a tryout. That's better than many tryouts, that you would have to pay a bunch of money for it to go to.
Yeah. You were at a tryout not so long ago, right?
Yes, I was.
Was that for Evolve or was that for?
It was a fine tryout with Evolve and NXT. So when we were there, they pretty much said, "Hey, this is an Evolve / WWE tryout," because of course, NXT is WWE. So that's that's how they entice people. So it was an enjoyable experience. I really liked it, especially meeting Regal and getting to talk to him in private about a lot of things. And of course, he had like a 3-hour lecture before the actual tryout. So that was some pretty cool stuff to be a part of.
I bet, man. William Regal's one of my favorite wrestlers, and I would love the opportunity to just talk to him. And I'm sure as a wrestler yourself, you were like picking his brains, and you were really like tell me all the secrets. How are you so good?
Well, I probably aggravated him to death. But it's funny because when he was talking, he said that he was rotten as a wrestler for a number of years. Like he just didn't get it. He wasn't a natural. Just to hear him talk about, how rotten he thinks he was.
Yeah, he seems like a very humble man. Whenever he talks about himself, he's like, "Oh, I'm not that good." I'm like, "Dude, you're one of the best. You're incredible."
Well, he doesn't see it that way. I'll tell you that. He doesn't fancy himself a great athlete or anything really. Um, but he is very knowledgeable, and it was just to sit there and listen to him like a generic plot, just pick it apart and see what you shouldn't do and things like that. It was crazy. It was amazing.
The thing about William Regal, I think, is that he's like well rounded in that he gets all of it. Like, I'm sure he's very humble about it, but like, he's a great talker. He's a great tactical wrestler, but he can brawl. He can,
Right.
I imagine he's not so good at the lucha stuff. So we'll set that aside.
Well, he is a good face for the luchadors. And he said the luchadors like working him a whole lot, but for him flying, no.
Yeah, maybe not doing all of the high flying spots, but he also knows like. My favorite thing about William Regal is like the theatrical nature of him. When you watch a wrestling match with William Regal, the facial expressions and the way he walks and the way he moves, it all makes a difference. And I'm like, nobody these days figures that shit out. But William Regal had it down. You know what I mean?
I'm sorry, you just kind of got me excited there while you were talking. He actually pointed that out in his seminar. And even in his private conversations with me, and that was kind of one of the things that he was real complimentary of me with my aggression and things like that. It is the way he moves. It is like he would say that, okay, like during the entrance, when the baby face will be hitting the ring, he calls them heroes and villains because that's how they refer to them in England. So he calls himself a wrestling villain, but he'd just sneak up behind people, make it look like he was going to attack them from behind, but he really wasn't. Just the facial expression where he looks so mean, and things like that. And then when he's on the offense or defense, you can tell there's jeopardy each time because it really he's trying to figure out what to do when somebody's on the offense on him, and then when he's on offense, of course, you can see that rotten. It looks like you just swallowed a rotten egg.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you're right. There's not a lot of people that got. Adam Cole's got a lot of it.
Yeah.
But you don't see it a lot. It's just very mechanical guys just out there doing moves.
Right. Like that's what annoys me a little bit about like modern day wrestling is that they lose. And again, this is me sounding like old Jim Cornette. Well, not quite like old Jim Cornette, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, with 100% less racism.
100% less racism. But like, now they're all very. They get their spots in and they get their bits in. But you're right in that it's mechanical. Like it doesn't feed. It doesn't chain together properly. It just looks like people doing moves. It doesn't look like the match flows too good. And there's not a whole lot of people I think that can chain it together properly. And again, that's how wrestling has evolved because a lot of people enjoy that. They enjoy that kind of theatrical nature about it, and the fact that it is they just quite enjoy watching the performance. They a lot of the audience these days seem to have lost the technical wrestling side of it and just like to watch the experience and to watch these people do these moves, and that's the thrill of it. Whereas for guys like us, I think, who kind of have grown up watching wrestling from a long time ago, I think we're a little bit more old school, and we like to just watch a match unfold and watch it become a thing, which I don't think a lot of people these days on the independents quite get.
to your point, my wife and I talk about this all the time. She's wrestled for over 20 years, and we come from the area in America where it's old school Mid Atlantic wrestling and Smoky Mountain wrestling and things like that. And to John's point, Cornette, he does say some things that I've been in the locker rooms with Cornette a couple times. He's a fiery individual. I really don't think he's a racist. His comment was more or less to try to put over the toughness of Trevor Murdoch. He said the same thing about Big Bubba Rogers in 1986 when he was managing him, albeit very outdated and very poor taste. It's something he even apologized for, which I couldn't believe.
Right.
But on top of that, as you were saying, to your point, yes, it is about the performance, and that's one thing that I hate is the performance. And you'll find, and I'm talking, because I've sort of experienced it. Different crowds like different things. The art that you're referring to, the technical wrestling, that's great too. But there's a crowd that might like that and pop for that. Then there's a crowd that might pop for, okay, I'm going into my trunks and I'm pulling out a foreign object, or we call it a gimmick of some kind, and using it on your opponent behind the referee's back. That works a lot in these southern towns in America. They pop for that old school stuff. The storytelling, working a body part. That's the type of stuff that I like because it makes sense. There's a drama behind it. There's no drama behind a guy doing a half gainer front flip and landing on his head off the top rope, or a guy gathering up the side of the ring and doing a big dive. There's no drama in that. But if a guy moves out of the way and the babyface or whatever, pops the ring post with his shoulder and he's fighting from underneath the entire match to overcome that, that's the drama.
Yeah.
It's story. There's no story, and you could put that stuff in there and have it make sense, sure. But when you fly around so much and that's all you do, it looks like WWE 2K, or as Cornette would call it, video game wrestling.
Yeah, exactly. Like you're right in that they could put that stuff in there, and it would make sense. But like you said, there are different audiences, and some people are just playing to different audiences. And I guess
just think about it this way: if I'm wrestling you and I hit my shoulder on a post, am I going to be able to do a fancy comeback with my left arm at the end of the match? No. If my leg has been worked on for 15 minutes, am I going to be able to do springboard moonsaults and dives to the floor and everything else? Probably not, because that stuff doesn't make sense. But people are afraid that if they don't do those things, the crowd's going to hate it. And that's just not true.
Well, they do that kind of thing. Like I saw, the one that comes to mind recently was it was like a Young Bucks match that I saw not so long ago. And it was like a tag match, and the heels were like working over the ankle of one of the Young Bucks. And for like half the match, he was selling it. So you're like, oh, this is good because the Young Bucks rely on springing around and jumping and stuff. This is
and that's the one post.
And then like the second half of the match, they totally forgot about his fucking ankle, and then they just went typical Young Bucks. And you're like, oh, you were so close, guys. You were so close.
That's the match for Punky and Hoot, Ricky and Robert, were on the outside of the ring, and he kicked the ring post with his leg. You kick a ring post with your leg, your shin, you're done.
Right.
There's no flipping and flying around. There's none of that stuff.
Like, that shit hurts. It's like steel. Obviously, if that kind of shit happens, you're not going to get up, but...
You wouldn't think that they could get up after something like that.
Exactly, psychology lost on
Young Bucks. Is the main thing. Why don't... I'm sorry, I don't want to get off on a tangent, but it's just common sense. If that happens in a match, are you going to be able to do those things? Or if you're doing that in a real fight, are you going to be able to do those things? No, you're not.
Right. Well, it's like common sense to us, but these days, people, the defense of that kind of high-flying, fast-paced action is that the wrestlers will say, well, everybody knows it's a work anyway, so like, we may as well entertain them. I heard this. You'll get this, Josh. You'll get this because I was watching a shoot interview. I can't remember. I think it was with Balls Mahoney, from years ago. But I was watching a shoot interview with one of the old ECW guys, and they were talking about having a match with Terry Funk, who is pretty wild and can usually pop the crowd pretty well. But they were working a really slow-paced match at the time, and the crowd started to turn on them, and they were starting to boo, and they started to chant "boring" at Terry Funk, and so what Terry Funk did was he like immediately grabbed, I think it was Balls Mahoney, but he grabs Balls Mahoney in like a headlock, and just sits down in the middle of the ring in a headlock, and then he whispers, he's like, "You always remember, man. We're working them, they're not working us." And I'm like, that's the smartest thing I think I've ever heard. To hear them chanting about how boring it was, and for him to just slap a headlock in the middle of the ring in reaction to that is, that's smart. That's so clever, and that is what's missing from wrestling these days.
Well, we reconditioned everybody in the audience to say, "Hey, we're here to make you happy." So if they don't like something, they believe that they can just, we'll just say boring or we'll boo it. They're going to get up and jump around like monkeys. Jump, monkey, jump, that kind of thing. No. You're the master and you're pulling the strings, the puppets. You work them. They do not work you.
Exactly.
So he's 110% right.
Mm-hmm. Like, you got to remember, it's like going to a performance or something like that. And the guys up on the stage know what they're doing for the most part, and it would be weird if like they sat back and listened to every criticism that every person in the audience had to say, because nothing would get done. As a performer, you have to you've been doing that long enough to know what's right and what isn't right, and you should be able to go out and do it the way you want to do it instead of like pandering to the crowd too much.
Yeah, and that's a mistake a lot of people make. You dictate how you run your match, not the other way around.
Right.
I think that's probably a case of the wrestling audience these days being, well, or at least thinking that, we're all so smart because we kind of read rumors and the dirt sheets and kind of, we have this idea of like how the business works, so it makes the audiences almost like entitled to think like, hey, we know this better than you, even though you're the ones in the ring putting your bodies on the line and doing everything you can to entertain us. So yeah,
well, they think they're bookers, and Rebecca and I talk about this a lot. We have a promoter here that is, she just said he's an idiot. And she's correct, and the reason that she's correct is this. They read these dirt sheets, and they get the inside, and then they get the insider terms, which half of them don't really know what the insider terms mean or what they actually stand for. And then for whatever reason, they think they know better than Vince McMahon or Triple H, people that have made a living doing this for years. There's more to booking a territory than just putting this guy against this guy or everything else. They have no clue. And that's what I was talking about with this guy up here. I don't want to stooge him out, as we say in the business, but I'm not going to say his name out loud. But he thinks he knows how to, it's not for, you're not booking for a night. You go where you want to go. You're down the road or months or whatever, and you book backwards. And you figure out how you get there. But it has to be a story. You can't just book for that night. It'd be easy to put, CM Punk and Seth Rollins in the ring right now, 2 nights, give them what they want. Why would you do that? You
Right.
you want to build to something like that. You want to draw the most money that you can out of it, and you want to properly build to it to have it make sense. A lot of these people who think they know, they don't know anything. They don't know how to do that. That's the reason I say, okay, you think you know everything. How about we put you in charge of a multi-billion-dollar organization right now, and let's see what you can do. They'll run it in the ground in a week.
Right. Like the people who think that they can book the WWE better than it's being booked right now, you're like, okay, that's interesting, but like what you got to do is you got to book like the complete 3-hour television show, and then you got to book another 2-hour television show, two other 2-hour television shows in a week, and then you also have to build to a pay-per-view, and you also have to make it all make sense, and you have to make all of these characters look good. Like, it's not just a case of saying, this guy's been buried, this guy's been ruined. You gotta actually, like, it's a lot more than that. It is the build up, and it is, like, looking after these guys properly. And you're right in that if you were to ask any of these guys who thinks that they know better to book the entire Raw, like the 3 hours of Raw, you wouldn't be able to do it.
Because they have no clue what they're doing.
Right. They could, well, that's another thing that me and John have talked about a couple of times on the show, is that everybody's favorites change rapidly. You know what I mean? So if you sat and listened to all of the fans, they'd be like, you got to push this guy. So then they push that guy. And then they're like, oh, we hate this guy. Push this other guy instead. And you're like...
Right.
And the problem with that is you end up with 50-50 booking like the WWE do. And then the smarks complain about that. They're like, oh, this is bullshit. Wins and losses matter. And you're like, exactly, they do matter, which is why not everybody's favorite can be pushed all the time, because it's not going to work. You know?
Well, see, that's my biggest criticism of people who talk about Brock Lesnar. Yes, Brock Lesnar's a part-time. Yes, Brock Lesnar's always the champion. But you want to know why? Because the people who think they know better, hate that. They're being worked.
Yeah.
Does that you? They're being worked. Okay, these people hate this. So let's keep doing it. Mm-hmm. They want to see him lose. They want to see him get beat. So let's keep doing that. And it drives them insane.
That is
so
true.
When somebody beats Brock, like this past WrestleMania, when Seth beat him, that was the biggest pop of the show when it was first.
That's true. Put it on first.
Brock Lesnar is a heel. Brock Lesnar doesn't care what you think. Everybody knows he doesn't care. He doesn't have social media. He's not out there suplexing somebody out of their shoes 16 times. And then getting on social media and talking about, taking pictures of his salad. Or, talking about different things, out of character. He is the most legit, mysterious person that they have. And people hate him because he's always put on a pedestal. Great. I say keep doing it. Because everybody's afraid to be a heel anymore. Everybody wants to be cool.
Yeah. No,
that's not heel, man. Heels ain't cool, brother. They're just not cool.
That's the old Steve Austin syndrome, where they're like, I want to be a cool heel, or like NWO, they're like, I want to be a cool heel. I'm like, well, yeah, you have to be cool to be able to pull that off, first of all,
Yeah. That. And if I go out and Jon, okay, and I'm wrestling Jon, and I beat the bejesus out of him, and then I beat the bejesus out of everybody they put in front of me, why wouldn't the crowd like me? Because I beat everybody up. I'm the man. I'm cool. I should be cool, right? I never run. I never cower. I never powder away from anybody. I never act scared. I never am scared. I never back down. Why is that not cool? That's what everybody wants to be these days. So that's not a heel, my friend. A heel is saying, you know what? I'm going to beat the crap out of you. I'm going to take you down. I'm going to show you who the man is. Insulting his family, insulting everybody that likes him, and then he gets the crap kicked out of him and has to cheat to stop him. And then when he cheats to stop him, then he's the big bad guy. He's the bully again. And then when the baby face starts coming back, guess what? I'm going to run for the heels. I'm going to do everything I can to stop him because I'm really not that bad.
That's the thing that blows me away about some of those smarks, is that when you see, like, they're like, how come this guy didn't get a clean win? It's ridiculous. Like a heel. Like, oh, this guy, they're burying him because he's not getting, like, clean wins. And you're like, you fucking idiot. He's a heel. Heels are supposed to cheat. That's the entire point of this, you fucking idiots, you know?
And the difference is the people, okay, you start cheating and the people start cheering anymore because they think it's the cool thing to cheer the heel. Well, if a heel knows what he's doing, he can do that and still have you not like him. Just look at MJF.
Yeah, that's the example I would have brought up because he's doing that perfectly nowadays.
All the time. He lives his gimmick all the time and he insults you. And he doesn't give anybody any credit. He doesn't say thank you. He may do make a wish, but he doesn't talk about it. See, it's harder to be a heel nowadays because everybody's saying, it's a show. You shouldn't go so far to make people angry. Actually, in a time where it's easily to offend, it's so easy to offend people, now you should just do it. Now, I'm not talking about, banging on their religion or their race or anything like that. No. But if you have to do that to get heat from somebody, you don't know what you're doing.
Right, like a good heel can figure out a way to work the crowd and really get them to like hate them, you know. Let me ask you this, both of you, regarding MJF. Like I know that guy is he's a great promo. We know that guy can talk. But like how good is he as a wrestler? Because I've only seen him wrestle once, which was on an episode of All Elite Wrestling, I think last week, where he was fighting Hangman Page, I think.
Yeah.
That was not a good match.
I thought it was an alright match. I didn't think it was bad or anything, but MJF, you got to remember, he's only been in the business for something like 4 years or something like that. So he's still very much work in progress. Still very young. I believe he's only about 23 years old or something like that as well. So he's got all the character side of it absolutely down. He knows what he's doing there to kind of get the heel heat and come across as like this smarmy, egotistical bastard that you want to kind of boo and jeer and stuff. But in terms of the in-ring product, that is, I mean, I'd say he's more than good enough at the moment. But like he's so young that he's absolutely going to improve as well as time goes on. So. I think he's got all the makings of being like a big like star in the business in the coming years.
He is very serviceable. It's very hard for me as a peer to criticize somebody for their in-ring work when they're working on AEW and I'm not. I don't have the contract and things like that, so I'm not going to do that because he's obviously there and I'm not. But to John's point, his character, his promo skill, everything that he does, his mannerisms, his facial expressions, the psychology that he employs, like, okay, say it all in, there was a legless guy in the match. What was the first thing he did in that battle royal? He went over and stomped the legless guy. That's brilliant. That's brilliant stuff. And you know what? People, man, he's a butthole for that. Well, guess what? Great. He gets that. Plus, for everything that I've heard, he's trying to learn other parts of the business, the commentary, how to edit things. That's smart too, because he'll always have a job that way. See, it's not just about Hurricane Ronald and Frankensteiners. And he proves that every single time he's around because he's so smart when it comes to getting a reaction. Talking is the most important thing in wrestling. If you can talk, if you can connect, it doesn't matter how great you are. I mean, some people might hate that. Some people may disagree, but I don't. I don't do a whole lot, but I try to be able to talk and I try to get a reaction because I'm not going to land on my head forever. I don't want to do that. And that's what he does. So I'm very impressed with him. And like John said, he's only, 22, 23, as you said. He's going to get better. And he's already pretty good.
Yeah.
You got to think, too, he may be holding himself back because guess what? Heels aren't supposed to do the cool stuff. Okay? But contrary to popular belief, heel's not going to do all the, well, they shouldn't, but most of them do. He's not going to do the cool stuff because he's an old school type heel.
Well, you see, that's one of the problems I have with whenever I watch AEW. And I don't know if it's the crowd, and I don't know if it's the people, if it's the wrestlers. But a lot of the time, I don't know who the heel is and who the face is. And, that's really important in wrestling. You need to know who the good guy is, and you need to know who the bad guy is, so you can get into the match. And, because the crowd, when you watch an AEW show, the crowd pops for everybody and pops for everything. And then you're like, well, I don't know who I'm supposed to root for, And again, maybe that goes back to the whole thing where people are like, oh, it's about the entertainment more so than it is about the wrestling. But I still think you need to have the good guy, bad guy dynamic because that's the point.
Well, and that's the story. To me, when it comes to wrestling, and my wife is sort of this way. Well, she's actually very intelligent. You guys should talk to her about wrestling sometime. She's booked her own territory. The best type of wrestling is when you have clearly defined baby faces and heels who are fighting over a title that means something in an athletic presentation, and they're fighting for that or a personal issue. You don't have a lot of that stuff anymore. The best piece of business, in my opinion, that AEW has done since they've been on television was anything with Chris Jericho, MJF, and Cody. That's one. Mm-hmm. But the best part was Dustin and Cody because there was a personal issue there. Right. Dustin was fighting for the respect of his little brother. He was the guy that always blew his chances, was addicted to drugs and everything else. And Cody was this suit-wearing NWA champion or whatever he was at the time. And the story was, hey, I don't respect you because now I'm going to put you out to pasture. I'm the better roads. That's a personal issue. And right, people were all over that. And somebody actually got color, cut themselves. They actually sold everything that they did. They were actually disoriented. They told a story. Wow. Sorry to sound like Jim Cornette, but stuff like that still works. Okay? It does.
You're right, though. There's a story
style is bad. It just, that works.
Right. And, if there's a story going into the match, then you have a story to tell in the match. You know what I mean?
Hair. Okay? If me and John go out cold and do 5,000 offensive moves to each other, it might be a cool performance, but there's nothing there. It's a cold match.
Right. You need to have that heat.
I think that's the problem that I've had with AEW so far is that while a lot of the matches have been really good technically, there's no kind of stories behind a lot of them, or not enough of a story, and it doesn't seem like they've done a particularly great job of kind of building up stories to enhance the matches and make you want to care about them. It just turns it into more of a spectacle rather than, something to kind of get invested in.
Right. Well, can I bring up a point? That one thing that kind of annoyed me about AEW, in regards to a storyline, and also in regards to who we were talking about earlier, MJF. This is a thing that annoyed me, and I don't know if it annoyed you guys, but I'll try to explain it. Is that MJF turned on Cody after his match with Chris Jericho, right? We all remember that. And, we all knew that MJF was going to turn on Cody. Everybody knew it. It was a matter of when and not if, right?
Yeah.
So my issue was him turning at that point, after Jericho had beaten him, or after MJF threw the towel in on Cody's behalf. So Chris Jericho wins. Cody Rhodes can no longer fight for the heavyweight championship, right? And then MJF turns on Cody, right? We all knew he was going to turn. But my issue is, why did he turn now? Because now MJF has absolutely nothing to gain from it. You know what I mean? What does he have? Cody Rhodes lost the match, and now he turns on Cody. But like if he'd have stayed with Cody for longer and like got under his skin without him realizing it, and like say he helped him win the heavyweight championship, and then turned and then screwed him out of the belt later, like a grudge match, or like worked his way up to fight against Cody and then turned on him, like you could make a story out of that. But instead they just went, now he's a heel. Do you know what I mean?
Well, the story behind the match, in my opinion, or behind him doing that, was MJF took what Cody wanted most from him, his chance to be the heavyweight champion. And he threw in the towel, and then he turned on him. So there's a way that you can build a story from there. He hates Cody. You can't stand him. You build a history from that. But yes, I think that your way of doing it would have been right. And actually, you know, being affiliated with Ricky Morton stuff as I am, and different things like that, you get I don't know, you just get the idea of telling a slower story, I guess. And I think that's what they should have done there.
Right, because they could have like worked up.
Really.
They could have had something to benefit from, and they could have had something for MJF to like go after. And one of those like slow reveals where like the audience gets it, and the audience are like, he's bad news. He's got, but Cody's like oblivious to it, and it goes on for a while. And MJF's like pulling strings, and then he turns, and everybody's like, whoa! And then Cody's like, how did they not see it coming? But to me, it just felt like they turned him because they had to turn him. Yeah,
they could have milked that a lot longer. And I mean, certain people, I just don't say it out loud, who have pointed that out. And I mean, I felt the same way. I felt they could have milked the Dustin and Cody angle longer before they did the whole hug and the tag team deal. There's things that sort of been hot shotted. They've done every single match, in my opinion, that could have drew money already.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
For power, like WWE does, is just send AJ Styles and all those guys down to NXT to compete with you. You've got to take what stars that you have, which is few and far between, while you build other stars, mind you, and slowly build those matches for your pay-per-views, for your TV. They've done everything before they got on TV, just about. So, I mean, that's where, and you can see it in the ratings, because the first few weeks everybody was all about it. And you could look on Facebook and Twitter, that's all everybody was talking about. Now all of a sudden it's, Dynamite's on tonight. Well, I'll watch it tomorrow maybe, or something. I know my wife, and I mean, especially her, we can't stand it. There's a lot of goofy stuff that goes on there. And like she just said, she was a Kenny Omega fan too, and he's been sort of lost in the shuffle while he's been there.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Omega, New Japan, the star, the guy that was going to change the world and be the global phenomenon. He's not that guy right now. And part of that's how they booked him. I mean, he just doesn't feel. He doesn't feel like a star to me.
Right.
I mean, there's options, and I mean, like All In, they lost me a little bit there. They had a great show, and then all of a sudden, a bunch of guys dressed as dicks comes out. You're just sitting here going, why are these dudes in 6-foot dick costumes?
Well,
that's the goofy stuff that they do. They have great stuff, and all of a sudden it's just something stupid.
Right.
WWE killed for that if they done something like that, but not AEW.
That's another thing that we had talked about in the previous podcast, is that I wondered how AEW were going to be able to like balance the way that they work, because it seems to me that they at the moment have like a lot of cooks in the kitchen, as they say, and like we covered, like your favorite parts are the parts with Cody Rhodes and Chris Jericho and Dustin Rhodes, and that's because those parts are very serious and they're very good at what they do, and they seem like thought out. But at the same time, you're gonna have like the goofy high spots, like with the Young Bucks, and then you're gonna get the silly matches and the silly spots and the bits that don't make any sense. And I wondered like how good of a balance they were gonna be able to work that. And if it was, because if you don't get it right, it just makes the product seem very uneven. Like you could have a 5-star classic match, and then a bunch of guys come out dressed as dicks, and you're like, what show am I watching? Like, what is this?
It's very schizophrenic. You have a classic like Cody and Dustin, and then here comes guys in the dick costume. And a guy gets thrown by his pecker. Stuff. I'm sorry. Stuff like that runs up and down my spine because I can't stand it. To me, it's kind of, you giggle a little bit when you first see it, but it's because it's ridiculous, not because it's funny.
I guess so. Wrestling is supposed to be a bit of a buffet where there's supposed to be something for everyone, and you don't want to just appeal to one set of fan, really, do you? You want to be able to kind of tick a lot of boxes and get as many eyes watching the product as possible. So from that kind of perspective, I can see why they have these different things, like you say, like the whole guys in dick costumes, or like say Orange Cassidy with his gimmick and stuff, and it seems kind of out of place compared to the highly athletic matches you get with some of the other guys like Kenny Omega or John Moxley or whatever, and doing the hardcore stuff. So there's like all these different kind of meals that you can kind of sample and enjoy, but I guess it's important not to just do too much of one thing and kind of have a bit of everything. So there's something for everything, something for everyone to enjoy.
Well, I agree with that on a lot of levels. There's some people that can't stand Colt Cabana. He's one of my favorites.
Mm.
That kind of comedy is fine with me. The kind of comedy MJF and Jericho done in the ring where they were kind of going back and forth with each other. I thought you wanted to join me. No, actually, I heard you wanted me. Stuff like that. That type of stuff's funny to me. And I've met Joey Ryan. Nice guy. He was complimentary of me, but I do not like his act. I just can't stand it. I think it's insulting. There's no way anybody would put that on national television unless you're Impact, obviously. I can't.
So you didn't take the dick spot then?
I don't. Anybody that's like a traditionalist, no. I can take Orange Cassidy. It's not my cup of tea, but hey, I'm not complaining about that. There's been worse stuff on television. Mm. But Joey Ryan, Val Venus. They compare Joey Ryan to Val Venus. Well, Val Venus never showed his package, and he never flipped nobody by it or anything like that. And just, he's taking goofiness to a whole new level. And it's good for whatever crowd, but nah, not my thing.
Well, that's a good point. Like Val Venus, played up his gimmick on the mic, but when he got into the ring, like it was business. He was a wrestler.
It was extremely good too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even when they took the gimmick off of him, put him the right to censor, Chief Morley, he was really good even then.
I love the right to censor. I'm sure I've made this well known by now, but I fucking love the right to censor because that's such a good gimmick. It was for the time, like it drew such heat because it was exactly what it was like. Wasn't Steve Corino in ECW was doing the no hardcore thing, and Mick Foley did it too.
Yeah.
And that got such heat because that's not what the audience wanted. And again, it's all about working the audience. If they don't want it, that's exactly what you should give them. Now you're a heel. And that's why the right to censor worked so well, is because nobody wanted to see the Godfather or Val Venus, switch gimmicks like that. And so they were just, so right from the get-go, people are going to hate it. And so they should have capitalized on that. And I really wish they had it, because I used to fucking hate the right to censor. Because I was so enthralled in kayfabe. I was like, those guys, I hate what they've done to Val Venus, my favorite. If you look
at the Attitude Era in general, a lot of that stuff would be considered so stupid now.
Mm.
That's the type of stuff that AEW's kind of trying to do. The juvenile, like Rebecca just said, and she's been commentating as well while we've been talking. But just a lot of the juvenile, sophomoric, stupid stuff. And there was a lot of that, like Mae Young giving birth to a hand. I mean, yes, that was funny as can be when you first see it. But if you look at it in the grand scheme of things, it's just like, my gosh, have mercy.
Well, I'd say it was worth it just for the payoff, like 15 years later when the hand came back as like a grown, a giant hand.
That is, like, the fact that they acknowledged it, you're like, oh, you sons of bitches, you know?
Yeah.
Does your wife want to come on the podcast?
Well, I don't know if she would like to or not. She's just kind of saying something every now and again.
She can listen and hear how well this podcast goes, and if it goes really well, maybe she could be on the next one if you guys want to come on again.
Tell you what, if she says anything, I'm sort of on headphones, I'll lend it to you. But next time I'll make her come on there because she's actually got a lot of stuff that she can say that would make more sense for me because, as I said, she's been in this longer than me, and she's pretty smart. The finishes some of the finishes that you guys have seen in my matches, that wasn't my call. That was hers. So, like the one John liked so well not too long ago, with the referee and the ducking, and he may remember it, I don't know. But that was her, not me. So she's pretty smart.
John, you remember?
I'm trying to rack my brain.
Where I was wrestling the little small guy. And the finish, he actually gave me the curb stomp. And pinned me, but the referee wasn't there or something, and I went to hit the ref, or he was trying to revive the ref, or she came in the ring, I'm sorry, and he was with her, and he was trying to turn the ref around, and I hit the ref after he ducked, hit the ref myself, the ref took the bump, and then he hits me with the curb stomp, and the other referee who came down to check on the ref that was knocked out covered me, pinned me, and but he disqualified my opponent because the referee who got hit, thought that Josh, the small guy, actually hit him. I know that sounds convoluted, and I'm trying to remember it as I go right now, but it was something commented on.
I get you. I can see how that works. Yeah, I get you. Well, that's pretty good.
Pulling the rug out from the audience because it makes it look like the other guy won, but actually, he didn't because of his shenanigans.
That was all her. She'd come up with every bit of that.
And that's a good, old school kind of move,
Yeah.
Smart. Well, she's an old school type of worker herself. No flips, no flops. Just punching people in the face, and yeah, she comes up with a lot of finishes. She came up with a finish one time where I was in a submission hold, and at least I think this was how it was. She had a bottle of water with her or something like that, and she threw it into the ring. Well, the referee sees the bottle or something. I can't remember exactly how it went. Now he went to get the bottle and put it out of the ring, and then there was a low blow there by me, and then I ended up winning the match that way or something. But she's creative when it comes to the stuff she comes up with.
Nice. Well, that's the way you got to do it. You got to keep things fresh, So what were we talking about before? We were talking about AEW, were we?
AEW. The bane of perfect existence.
I'm on the fence with AEW. You know what I mean? My problem with AEW is that they made it quite clear that they were going to be an alternative to the WWE. But every time I watch that show, and I'm like, it's the same as the WWE, but it's faster. There's more flips. There's more whatever. They're doing it quicker. But it's
every match.
But it's the same show, pretty much. They're not. There's no. I would say, and Josh, I imagine you'll agree with me in this. But in my opinion, I feel like the true alternative to the WWE is the NWA.
Exactly.
Because
I love the NWA.
But it's such a different look. It's such a different style. The matches are different. everything, every single aspect of that show is different from the WWE. Whereas AEW seems like they're trying to be WWE light, and that's not what they promise people.
True. And I mean, I agree with you on that. The NWA is the alternative as far as the United States go. And I'll sort of parlay this into something else. They're very basic in their storytelling, and I'm sure Cornette being gone is kind of going to hurt them a little bit as far as the creativity goes, because I know he suggested a lot of things. They need to hire Rebecca, she just said. They do things to get guys over. I beg AEW to do that. Instead of going out and having an underneath guy go with the main event guy for 20 minutes and it takes him that long to beat him, get somebody over. Do a squash match. Do a match where, like on NWA, where it's like 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes long. You give the guy a little bit and then you beat him. And then you cut promos from the heart. You go out, you wing it. It's studio. There's no music. There's no dives. It's storytelling at its best, and that's what I like. Now, as far as the in-ring work goes, if you want to talk about alternatives, and I don't know how you guys feel about this, but New Japan Pro Wrestling is the alternative to just about everybody. They give themselves a good name, and it's Rebecca's favorite, but they're just very athletically based. They have a lot of titles, yes, but their titles mean something. Their storytelling is very basic, as is the NWA's. Of course, there's a language barrier there, so you can't understand anything to say. But guys like Naito and Okada, they have their own. They have their own special kind of charisma. We witnessed the show, actually 2 shows here a couple months ago, and they didn't have to say anything. It's the way they carry themselves.
Right.
But
like
they're very technically based, and they're very in-ring based. Nothing's fancy with their setups or anything. That's the reason they have done so well for themselves. And so, yeah, NWA and New Japan Pro Wrestling. New Japan is something Rebecca just wants to watch all the time. That's the alternative for us. That's what I like to watch.
I need to watch more in New Japan for sure, because I've heard about how good it is. But I want to just touch on a point you made earlier. Like, my favorite wrestlers in the WWE at the moment are all Japanese. Shinsuke Nakamura, Asuka, Kairi Sane. They're my favorites, and they've been my favorites since I was able to watch them regularly on the network and NXT and stuff. And the reason I like them so much is because they got over just by being them, like, not themselves. Like, you can tell that they're characters. They're larger than life. And they can get themselves over without having to speak English. You know what I mean? Like, if you just watch the way, like what we were talking about earlier, if you just watch the way that Asuka or Shinsuke walk and move and present themselves, even before they start to wrestle, the way that they present themselves intrigues you, and I want to see what they do. And then it turns out when they wrestle, they're actually incredible, and then you're invested. And they don't have to say a goddamn thing. But you get into it. You understand it. You know what I mean?
Well, you know who they are when they come out. You know who you're looking at.
Exactly.
And if you don't, you're intrigued. Like the first time Rebecca saw Nakamura, this was before she started watching New Japan, I'll never forget it. I said, you wait till you see this. Because I knew about him. I had watched him. He'd come out, he was doing all the movements and grabbing his face, and the thing where he sits back and things like that. She goes, he is weird. And then they winked at the camera. She goes, he is. But then she sort of latched onto him. She started listening to his music, things like that. People like that grab you. Oh man, I could go on a tangent forever about this.
But that's
and then you got Asuka, of course. She's the same way. Charlotte the same way. Adam Cole, he comes out in a T-shirt, but you know who he is by his mannerisms, what he does. So you don't have them like the Macho Man, like Sting, like Ric Flair, like Rick Rude, like all those guys anymore. Hulk Hogan, they jumped off the screen at you.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of those people anymore. They don't make them like that anymore.
That's what I really like about the Undisputed Era, because I feel like all of those guys have that kind of quality. Especially like Kyle O'Reilly, Bobby Fish. When you see them coming out, you're like, they mean business, but they get themselves over just the way they walk and move, and you know, Roddy Strong as well. Like, you get into them and they don't have to say anything. You get it. Do you know what I mean?
I couldn't stand Roderick Strong when he was in Ring of Honor and everything else. He's just. No, Kyle O'Reilly too. Rebecca just pointed out I didn't like him either. They were just so bland.
Yeah,
but right. But Kyle O'Reilly sort of won me over when I watched him live. I started to really like him, and then Roddy can't talk himself out of a wet paper bag. But I don't know. He's changed since he went to WWE. You root for him. I like him. I like all of them. But Adam Cole, man, I'm telling you, I hate to keep harping on it. That's where it's at right there. That guy has he's got something. The Velveteen Dream, he's another one of those guys that's got that presence. Yes. But if you watch enough of him, he'll get on your nerves. So,
okay.
It's my opinion. And that's not a bad thing. But, you know, it's just, I don't know. Adam Cole and the Undisputed Era, those guys sort of grab me. Nobody on AEW really does that, but MJF, you can tell who he is. NWA, when Aldis comes out, you know he's the champion. Look how he's dressed. You know, he's carrying the belt. Eli Drake can come out and he could just cut promos all day, and I would listen to him.
Do you know what I've really been enjoying about the NWA? And it's just like, it's so simple, but it's perfect the way they do it. Is the stuff they're doing with I can't remember his name at the moment, but Damian Sandow.
Oh, he's great now, man. Oh Lord,
it's so simple, but he plays it so well. You know, where he's like this aspiring actor, he doesn't want to talk to people and doesn't want them to look at him, like instant heat. And then when he starts to wrestle, he's getting outfoxed by the quicker guy. And he's outraged because in his head he's the best wrestler ever, but he's getting, you know, he's getting worked over by this other kid. Like, it's such a perfect story, and it's done so well. I'm like, this is exactly what happens when you let a guy like that fucking do what he knows best, you know?
Yeah, I agree with you. Rebecca was over here doing silence and all that other stuff. I mean, the question mark guy, when I first looked at him, what is this crap?
Right, I haven't. I'm not caught up exactly with NWA just yet. But I've seen the promos they were doing for that question mark guy, so I haven't seen him turn up yet. I don't know if he has. The last NWA show I watched was the one with Colt Cabana versus James Storm.
Oh, you're behind then.
I'm a couple behind. I haven't got to Jim Cornette being a dick yet. So I can't wait for that. But
you find that on there because they edited it out.
Well, here's my opinion on that. Like, Cornette shouldn't have said that. But at the same time, number one, it's not the first time Jim Cornette has said something stupid and they just left it in the show. And two, somebody's supposed to produce and edit that show, and that means that somebody watched that show and said, "Yep, that's perfectly fine," and then uploaded it. So, if Jim Cornette's leaving, the other guy should have some kind of repercussions as well.
That was his contingent to the whole thing. You know, they're like, okay, if they didn't like it, he said nobody told him during the show that they didn't like it. Nobody edited it out. As a matter of fact, LaDonna, who produces the show, said that it just went right by him. He didn't even realize it. But, you know, you can't just saddle Cornette up with it himself. I will agree with that. If you don't like something, I mean, you need to listen to it and take it out. I mean, it probably, the way I look at it, it probably wasn't looked at as offensive to the people editing it because they know how Cornette is, and, you know, they know he's just being Cornette and making an analogy to tell how tough Trevor Murdoch is or whatever. And then when the backlash came,
But that's exactly it. Like, if they watched it and understood that Jim Cornette was just being Jim Cornette, then they hear all this internet backlash, and then they change their minds. That, you know, somewhere along the line, something has gone wrong, and it's not a good look for them. Not that I'm defending any of the stupid things that Jim Cornette has said, but I feel like there were steps in place to stop this from happening to begin with, and they were all ignored. Anyway, let's not talk too much about this particular incident with Jim Cornette, because we could fill a whole other podcast with that, I believe. And we should actually do a podcast where we talk about that stuff, because I'm a big fan of Jim Cornette. But that, regardless, we're coming up to pretty close to time on the podcast. But really quick, Josh, I want to ask you. So far in your career, you've wrestled a lot of people.
Yeah.
Like, have you wrestled any big names that we would have heard of?
I've been in the ring in the 6-man tag with Jake Roberts.
Ooh.
Ooh.
I've been there, but as far as big names, it just really depends on who you consider big. I've been in the ring with Ricky Morton, Bobby Fulton, Jimmy Valiant, guys like that. Guys a lot of mainstream people probably wouldn't know, but they can teach you a lot. Michael Elgin, I've done more seminars with guys than I've done actual matches with them. But I'm just an independent wrestler, man. And a lot of us don't get those opportunities until we build ourselves up even further than what we are. So probably not many that comes off the top of my head.
That still sounds like a pretty good list, though. And you know what? Maybe if you do make it into the Evolve or into the NWA, we'll be able to see you on TV, on the internet.
I hope so. There's a lot of people vying for those spots. I've not exactly got the biggest physique.
But those other guys suck, though. You're on our podcast, so therefore you're amazing.
I am, and if it wasn't for my wife, I wouldn't win any matches. So she's got to take credit for that as well. So you get to take credit for me being on your podcast. So I'm awesome, and I get to take credit for all the wins that she's given me.
That's everybody gets some credit.
Everybody helps me. I don't get anywhere myself.
Well, that's not true. In the wrestling business, you gotta do some of this stuff by yourself. You're the one in the matches doing the wrestling. You know what I mean? So you're the one getting yourself over. So don't put yourself too down. You know what I mean? But you know what I'm gonna do on this podcast? I will leave a link in the description for like a match or two of yours, so that people can check you out. If they come to our podcast on YouTube, they'll be able to see some of your matches. How about that?
That would be awesome. Just, like maybe pick somebody else's. That way they won't know that I'm bad.
I'll just put like a montage of Joey Ryan's dick flips. Like
that. Put the dick flip guy on there.
Okay. It's been a real pleasure having you on the show, Chad. And I wish we could have talked a little bit more about you as a wrestler, but you know what? We'll be able to do that next time on a different podcast, I think. It's still good to hear all the things you had to say. You're a very knowledgeable person about wrestling. You're very passionate about it, which we appreciate. So it's been a lot of fun chatting to you. Thank you very much for coming on the show.
Thank you, my friend. I appreciate it. I'd like to anytime.
Excellent. Well, we'd love to have you on, and maybe in the new year we'll have you on again. And once you're NWA champion, we'll have you on.
I'm working on that right now. I'll have 10 pounds of gold on the next podcast.
Oh, I can't wait, man! Can you give us free tickets to the show?
Absolutely. You're gonna fly across the pond to watch it.
When I said free tickets, I also meant free plane tickets.
Oh,
Billy Corgan's loaded. He can afford it.
He's a commentator, so
yeah,
you can fly.
I'll do commentary for him. Tell Billy Corgan when you see him to give me a plane ticket, and also that his song "Bullet Butt Cheeks" is really good. See that? Brought it all back. Brought it all back full circle. And Josh, before we go, is there anything else you want to say to the world about wrestling or about yourself or anything like that?
Wrestling is it's subjective. So don't let anybody tell you that you have to like a certain thing. You can watch it all. You can enjoy it all. It's the greatest time in the history to be a wrestling fan. But also, I have a unique journey of how I got into it. So there might be some people watching or, listening that want to get into the business, but they're not really sure if they should or how. But my wife said don't. But in all honesty, if I hadn't have found it, there's no telling where I would be at. There's a lot of things that go on inside the business that would drive you crazy. A lot of drama, a lot of egos, a lot of people that you're not going to like. It's not just all, the crowds and everything else. It's not all sunshine and rainbows and stuff like that. But, if it's a dream of yours, don't hold yourself back. Do it, because when everything's clicking and you're in the ring, you're getting to do what you dreamed to your entire life, there's not much else like it. So I basically just wanted to speak to those people and tell them, hey, I was a kid with a dream too, a 300-pound kid with no self-confidence or anything else. And, I had some people help me along the way that sort of rehabilitated me and turned me into the person I am today, my wife being the biggest component of that. And it's just, I just don't want, I hate to see people's dreams become regret. So don't hesitate, try it, and don't let anybody tell you you can't. I think that's the main thing. There's a lot of people that's told me that I can't over the time that I've done this. No, I haven't gotten nearly as far as I want to, but I'll never regret actually doing it because there's nothing like it.
Right, like you're still doing it. People who said you can't do it, you're proving them wrong because you are doing it and you continue to do it. You know what I mean? So like that's the trick. If you want something really bad, you got to go out there and at least attempt it. And you might find out that it's not for you, and that's fine. But you only know that if you try.
Exactly. I wasn't a natural either, man. I mean, I wrestled amateur for years and everything else, and I was pretty decent at that. But it took me 6 months just to learn how to take a proper flat back bump. And my trainer, when he first seen me and he saw me, he said, "Oh, I'm gonna have to really work with this guy." I mean, I was bad, but and my confidence was such that when I started to get better, he told me he was going to put me in the ring and get my feet wet, and I quit. Because I told him when I first started, I am not doing this in front of people because I was afraid people would make fun of me. I was afraid people would make fun of how I looked, and if I messed up, and I'd have to deal with that sort of bullying and abuse. So I quit, and it took him for 2 months to talk to me about coming back. But they did a show one time after I finally went back to training, and I saw pictures of it on Facebook, and I remember telling myself I will never miss another one. And I didn't, and I'll never regret it. There may be times when I hate it. There may be times when I want to quit. And if you get into it, there'll be times you want to do the same. But I'll never regret getting into it because it's been the biggest part of me. It's how I met my wife. It's how I keep my confidence. It's how I stay in shape. It's everything to me now. So, I mean, it can be a lot more than just a business if you want it to be.
That's exactly it, man. You went back and you really you overcame everything. And you went back and you did it, and then you're like, you know what? No, I know it's for me. So that's very admirable. And so yes, it's been great talking to you, Josh. Thank you very much for coming on our podcast. We really appreciate it.
Me, Kyle.
So yeah, this is another excellent episode of Wrestling Doesn't Make Sense. We'll be back probably next month, I think, with some other escapades. We haven't figured out what yet, but we will be back probably in a couple of weeks, and we will see you all then. Thank you very much for listening. We really appreciate it, and we'll see you later.